ready to dominate your draft? To leave your league mates just feeling bad about their teams and maybe their lives in general? Well, then you want the Draft War Room. Matt Schauf of DraftSharks.com here with Jared Smola and Alex Korf to talk about the most powerful fantasy draft tool on the market. Alex, you're our in-house engineer and the product manager in charge of this stuff. You live in the workshop creating, sharpening, testing these tools. Can you start telling us what the Draft War Room is and how it's going to help?
Yeah, well, first, let's take a step back, go down memory lane. I remember my first fantasy football draft. I went on the internet and I downloaded a cheat sheet, printed it off. It was hideous. But what I did is I marked players off through the draft. At the end of the draft, I realized I downloaded a sheet for PPR and I was in a standard league. Don't do that. So what I'm describing here is a cheat sheet. The Draft War Room is a cheat sheet, but on steroids. So what we're doing is we're looking at not generic rankings that are static. The Draft War Room will actually calculate the value of a player, each player, during your fantasy draft. So that player value will change during the draft in real time. All of this is specialized for your scoring, so you're not going to have standard for PPR. Also your league size as well as your roster configuration. Do you have 2 wide receivers? Do you have 3 wide receivers, 2 flex? All of that is very important for calculating that value. And what we're going to talk about is actually the 3D value, because there's multiple dimensions to the value in the Draft War Room. And that is because we have 17 different value indicators that feed the algorithm, which means that there's a lot of moving parts. But the first step is actually that live draft sync.
That live draft sync is vital. It connects your DraftSharks account, where your DraftSharks War Room is, with your league. It pulls in all of those settings that you need and creates the Draft War Room to fit your specific format. It live syncs with the top 11 fantasy football platforms. So pretty much wherever you play, Yahoo, CBS for some reason, Sleeper, ESPN, will connect with it. It'll pull in your scoring settings, your league size, your roster configurations, everything that makes your league unique and changes the values of players. That gets pulled in. It affects the valuations inside your Draft War Room, and it sticks with you throughout your draft. You also get a condensed version of that Draft War Room on your drafting site. So if you want to get those DraftSharks recommendations without navigating away from your league draft room because you're on the clock trying to make a pick, and those extra clicks can mean missing a pick. Right there, we've got a sidebar to help you. You can look real quick. Oh, that's the guy that they say I should take. Make that selection, move on to the next one. So we've got you synced. That's step 1. Step 2 is those projections that drive those rankings that get updated as you draft. And we're going to go to projections guru, Jared Smola, who I don't know if anybody out there follows the accuracy competitions, but if you do, you already know him because he's been up atop them lots of times, most recently winning the Fantasy Pros multi-year accuracy contest. Jared, tell us a little bit more about that rankings process and what it produces for fantasy drafters.
I hate to break it to you, if you're not either doing your own fantasy football projections or using rankings that are based on projections, you're kind of screwed. Fantasy football is a game based entirely on stats, on the numbers these guys are producing. So if you're not projecting those numbers, you're just not getting an accurate view of these guys' fantasy values. So we do detailed player projections for every single fantasy relevant player every season. We start at the team level, so we're projecting snaps, offensive plays for each offense, run rate, pass rate, sack rate. That's giving us, a total number of pass attempts and rush attempts for all 32 teams. Then we start, getting into the player level efficiency stuff. So we're projecting volume shares like pass attempts, rush attempts, targets, efficiency metrics, completion rate, yards per pass attempt, catch rate, yards per catch. And then we're projecting touchdowns for all these guys as well, which can be the trickiest part. We're factoring in a bunch of different stuff for these touchdown projections. Overall team strength is a big piece of it. Positional touchdown rates, historical touchdown rates by each position. Red zone usage is important for these guys. So the end result there is just a detailed set of player projections, which again is important for accurate fantasy rankings. It's also important to be able to give you customized rankings. So again, we're taking these projections, we're applying your league scoring rules and scoring settings to those projections to give you customized rankings. We don't stop there though. You can find baseline player projections in a lot of places. We wanted to give you guys a more all-encompassing look at players' fantasy value. So that's where our 3D projections come in. They start with their baseline projections. We're adding 3 additional dimensions. The first one is a floor projection for every single player, simply so you can see how safe that player is. The second one is a ceiling projection. What's this guy's upside? What's his likelihood of hitting that upside? And then the third dimension is a consensus projection from 38 other fantasy sites, because there is some value in wisdom of the crowds.
And you might hear or see 3D projections and think, oh, nice fancy name, guys. Aren't they just projections? No, the importance of it is just what Jared laid out. Every player not just has this number that they're going to hit or not going to hit this year. They all have a range of potential outcomes. And that's what we're capturing here with those 3 dimensions that Jared just mentioned. We don't want to say, this guy's going to score this many points, so you should draft him here. Anybody who tells you that is lying to you, because they know it's not true. There's a range of potential outcomes to everybody. We're capturing that with these 3D projections. So you've synced your league. You have gained access to the most accurate projections in the industry, which have become more powerful with the 3D aspect in recent years. We're not done yet, though. There's more math coming, right, Mr. Engineer?
Yes. Step 3 is my favorite step, and that is even more math. And that is where we apply the 3D value algorithm. All I do basically all day is spend time in this algorithm looking at what happens, what values are, how players compare to each other. So like we said, step 1, you've synced your league and your specific format has come in. And that's how we calculate the baseline of positional value versus each other. What a running back means versus a wide receiver versus a tight end versus a quarterback on your specific format. And then even on top of that, let's talk about IDPs. IDPs are so unique that scoring changes for everyone. Being able to properly evaluate a linebacker versus a tackle it's important. And that's where what we're taking into account here. And then from there, we're going to take into account the flex spots, how many of them, who can be in what, because that's really going to determine how the value of each of those positions changes. And then it will also change the total pool to compare that's generating your baseline. Are you in a really deep league, like 16 teams with, start 10? That's a lot of players that are removed from that player pool. That means that baseline's very low. So the opportunity cost at the top versus the bottom really, really changes. Versus, let's say, a shallow league, you're in an 8-team league, then you have a little bit more flexibility. And then next, we're going to adjust based on who has actually been drafted on your team as well as on the other teams, because that changes the value of a player versus your team as well as versus the player pool as well. Maybe there's a big time run on running backs. Maybe like 18 went in the top 2 rounds. Well, what does that mean for running backs going forward? Are they more scarce, or are they all the same level, all the same tier, and we don't really care? And then looking also at bench depth. Maybe you're in a 25-round draft. That changes the value of the players at the top as well as at the bottom versus like a 15 or 16-round league. And then those values will change dramatically. And then from there, we also will apply new this year. We have a trust factor system where we're looking at players and how much we trust them effectively. Anthony Richardson, his rookie year, he would have had a really low trust factor. He had a high ceiling because that rushing potential, but no floor. So does he actually count towards your quarterback position, or should you still draft that back up? Same thing with tight end, same things even with defense. We apply that specialty trust factor. And then same with best ball. We have a best ball factor that's looking at that weekly variance, targeting players like Achane, the people that are better in best ball. All of that is done in the draft war room using our algorithm.
I draft a lot of best ball teams every year. I want to know which players are going to be more beneficial to me in that format, and maybe less so when I'm setting a lineup every week. And that trust factor is vital as well, and not something that you're going to find in other places. And the importance of that is just what Alex said. For years, you would have people either say, I'm taking Anthony Richardson because I don't care about the risk, or I'm not touching him because he's risky. And the answer is in between those. I mean, if you want to take him, go for it, but know that you should take some insurance behind him because he's less likely than Patrick Mahomes to just deliver all season for you. So we've got trust factor in there so you know how each pick is going to affect not only your roster, but how you should draft going forward, because we want you to be as set up as possible when you finish your draft for the season. You're obviously going to keep managing it from there, but your draft is really going to lay the base. So you got to get the draft right. And if you do that, you're really ahead for the season. Now, that was a lot of math from my engineering buddy over here. And if you're like me, you don't want to be doing all that math as you draft. You want the draft war room to be doing it for you, figuring it out, making the calculations so that you can just decide who your best pick is at your next turn. But sometimes you might not agree with who's atop the board. You might want to change some things. We're not trying to take any drafting controls away from you. We, in fact, want to help you control your draft more. We don't want you to be thinking about all of these aspects so that when it gets to be your turn, you're like, what the heck do I do now? I don't even know who the right pick is. We want you to be comfy and say, okay, I'll take this guy or maybe the next guy. All of the things that are at work are still under your control. Take upside mode, for instance. So Midway through your draft, Upside Mode is going to take those ceiling projections that Jared mentioned a while ago, along with ceiling likelihood, and it's going to boost those players in the later rounds of your draft. When you're really looking for that high upside guy that can win you a championship, it's going to push those guys higher up your board, but maybe you reach a turn where you don't necessarily want that player and you want to switch your view. You can do that. Toggle Upside Mode off, or early in your draft, toggle Upside Mode on before the Draft War Room does it for you. See who the high ceiling guy is at that point. Maybe you started with safe players. Maybe you're a Dallas Cowboys apologist and you want to boost the projections for everybody on that team because you like suffering through the fall. You can do that. Go in. There's a simple switch to just boost all those projections and make sure that your team is mediocre all season. Maybe you just want to remember certain guys for the later rounds, because I don't know about you, but I like to go ahead of the draft, scroll down the list, and mark some players that I want to remember when it gets to those later rounds, because I can't just trust ADP or the draft room or even my own thoughts as the draft is going to bring those guys to mind. In your draft war room, you can flag those players so they'll be in a list for you to find at any point. And because you might be flagging them at any point during the year, you know, let's say you're going through in June, but you're not drafting until August, you might get to August and be like, I have no idea why I flagged that guy. We've got a spot for you to put notes so you can be like, hey, future Matt, this is why you're flagging this player. This is why you want to keep him in mind. I'll be like, thanks, past Matt. That's very good foresight of you. Click any player in your draft war room. You will open his detailed player page in a brand new tab in your browser. And that's important for two reasons. One, the player page is going to give you a whole lot more info if you're weighing a couple of players when your turn is on its way. So you check the player page, you get the info you need, but then you need to go back quickly to your draft war room. It's still open. You just close out the player page. You're still in your draft war room. No fussing around trying to find where that tab was that you needed. It's right there. So every feature that we've talked about to this point is meant to help you, and it's meant to help you quickly because drafts can move very quickly. So, Alex, there are even more things beyond what we've discussed at this point that you can get just at a quick glance at your draft war room that'll help, right?
Yeah, the whole goal of the draft war room is to pull in all of the inputs, all of the variables that you need to make an informed decision quickly. Maybe you only have a 30-second clock. Like, you don't have time to go do research. So we pull all that in. So one of the things that I look at first is ADP. And what we're doing is we're actually pulling in that average draft position for your platform and then for your scoring. So if you're on Sleeper, we want to make sure you're trying to get a Sleeper league. If you're in a Superflex league, let's grab a Superflex ADP. Otherwise, it's going to be a little funky. We'll also flag the players' bye weeks, and then we'll have a little warning in case you have a bunch of players at the same bye week. I usually think that's future me problems. Maybe that's a little too much. Maybe you should pay attention to it a little bit, as well as the strength of schedule for players. And then we'll also have injury stats, whether they're currently injured, the riskiness level based on our algorithms, and then how many games we think they're going to miss. Also, could all be on that draft war room and as part of their projection as well.
And that's a great thing about why it's just, warning you about the bye week thing, because it's not taking them out of your draft list or telling you not to draft that guy. Maybe, if they share a week 12 bye, you probably don't have to worry about it, but it's good to know about it. You don't necessarily want two quarterbacks with the same bye where you only start one every week. But, however you choose to use it, it's there for you to look quickly and see. And Jared, there's a little bit more at play as well, right?
Yeah, you're going to find tiers on your draft war room, and I'm sure you probably know how important tiers are in fantasy drafting. If not, we have another video on fantasy football tiers and all that can do for you. You're going to find those again on your draft war room, but our tiers are, again, they're projections based and they're customized to your league. They're not just some generic tiers that you're going to print off or find in a magazine. They're customized to your league. You're going to find a draft grid on your draft room, showing which player every team has picked in every round. That's nice to have, especially if you're drafting on ESPN, which surprisingly does not have a draft grid as part of their draft room. So kind of gives you a lay of the land, helps you better predict what teams are going to do in the upcoming round, so you can kind of maximize value. You're also going to find icons on the draft room for things like sleepers, handcuffs, breakouts, high injury risk players. Again, just giving you as much information as we can in kind of an easily digestible way so you can use it to make better informed decisions during your draft.
Icons, draft grid, tiers, all with the goal of leaving tears in your opponent's eyes, right, Alex? And how do you get there?
Yeah, well, one of the major steps is to actually mock draft, and that's where our mock draft tool comes into play. I want something to do while I don't want to work, and that is often mock drafting. So we do that a lot. We make it really easy. We'll also sync with your keepers if you're in a keeper league, so it'll pull them in, put them on the draft grid, it'll remove them, as well as auction support. Really, mock drafting is one of the few things that's one of the more important things you can do to prepare for your draft.
You might think, well, I'm on Underdog now. What do I need to mock draft for? I'm drafting all the time. It's not the same. Unless every single league you play is exactly the same format as Underdog. More likely, you have other fantasy leagues that follow different formats. Your Draft War Room is ready to mock in all of those formats exactly how your league is set up, because that's what it pulled in when you synced and created your Draft War Room. So the more you can practice the way you're going to play, the better you're going to be at it. If you're not ready yet to check out the Draft War Room, then I guess I don't know what you're looking for. But if you are ready to embarrass your competition, to dominate your league, then click the link on your screen right now and become a DS Insider to start your run to a championship.